Rusk disagrees with you, and he was the Secretary of State at the time, but that's fine.
The communist nations have exploited the turmoil of a time of transition in an effort to extend communist control into other areas of the world.
Thoughts on Dean Rusk and America's involvement in Vietnam? I know next to nothing about that.
Exactly.
Again, I find it very bizarre that in a topic that did not include the word Israel, the only country we actually discussed was Israel. I actually believe that we should end all foreign aid, but that includes all foreign aid, not only one obsessive country. You mentioned FARA. Let's talk about FARA, the Foreign Agents Registry Act. The Foreign Agent Registry Act is a law imposed by the United States in order to block the access of Nazi Germans to the United States. Qatar currently has 31 registered FARA agents compared to Israel, which has 15. From 2021 to 2025 alone, Qatari FARA agents logged 627 in-person meetings with members of Congress, which is more than every other country by 300 meetings. So let's talk about AIPAC. I don't support AIPAC, largely because they're pretty ineffective. AIPAC is an organization comprised exclusively of Americans, by Americans, and for Americans. You don't have to like them, but that doesn't mean they're an agent of a foreign country. Just like Indian Americans have UNISPAC, the Armenian Americans have ENCA, Greek Americans have HALC, or the Ukrainian American community, which is the UCCA. Americans are free to lobby as they would like. And if you want to make laws against the lobbying of Americans to their government, then fine, let's discuss the policy and legislation, although unfortunately all we've done is obsess over one country. In 2024, it's true, AIPAC is an American lobbying group, just like the NRA or the Chamber of Commerce. They spent roughly $100 million on lobbying and elections. In the same year, China spent $500 million. Japan spent $400 million. Big Pharma, $400 million. Saudi Arabia, $310 million. Qatar, $250 million. But you wouldn't know this because my esteemed opponent is obsessed with only one country and one country only. But what about the fact that Israel controls American foreign policy? Isn't all of our Congress bought and paid for by Israel? If that's true, that somehow Israel controls American foreign policy, then someone clearly needs to explain to me how is it that President Truman forced the Israelis to stop its advances against the Egyptian army in 1948, which actually would have destroyed the Egyptian army unilaterally. President Eisenhower forced the State of Israel to pull back from the Sinai in 1956. President Johnson refused to greenlight a preemptive strike by Israel against the Egyptians in 1967. President Nixon prevented the IDF from crushing the Egyptian Third Army. President Ford forced the Israelis to withdraw from strategic areas under the Sinai II Agreement. President Carter pressured the Israelis to fully withdraw from Sharm el-Sheikh. President Reagan applied pressure to Israelis to withdraw from Beirut. Of course, President Bush, the senior, forbade the Israelis from responding to Saddam's 1991 Scud missile attack. And a point that you failed to address is if Israel actually controls the United States government, how come that the greatest existential threat to the state of Israel of the last 20 years, the Iranian nuclear deal, JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, of which Bibi Netanyahu, AIPAC, and almost every single Jewish American lobbied their member of Congress against, still passed. So if Israel controls America, they're doing a pretty shitty job. And that brings me to my final point. You had said the only reason America has enemies in the Middle East is because of Israel. Well, that doesn't make any sense because, as I mentioned, the first war the United States ever fought as a country was against Islamists off the coast of Libya, which was more than 140 years before the creation of the State of Israel, which really brings me to my final point. The problem we have in the United States is not something the Jews or something Israel. The problem we have in the United States is the rise of radical Islam. In the last 25 years, I am just going to name just a couple of incidents, so indulge me. Nice, France, radical Muslim terrorists. The 2017 Paris attacks, radical Muslim. The reason TSA checks your shoes in airports, radical Muslim. The underwear bomber, radical Muslim. The New Orleans ISIS attack, radical Muslim. Westminster, Boston Marathon, Manchester Arena, Pan Am bonding, Fort Hood, Beltway sniper attacks, the list goes on. Bali bombing, Mortarville Rigby, USS Cole bombing, London Bridge attack, Madrid train, Charlie Hebdo, San Bernardino, US Marines, Beirut bombing, Little Rock Army shooting, Chattanooga military attack, Pulse nightclub massacre, New York City ISIS truck attack, Boulder, Colorado firebombing attack, DC shooting. Jews who wear kippas are not going to blow you up on subway stations, but unfortunately, radical Islamists will. So let's get serious. There have been more than 58,000 Islamic terrorist attacks in almost every country on planet Earth since 9/11. So while we obsess about the only democracy in the Middle East that comprises less than 9 million people, a quarter of whom are Muslim Arabs, the actual Islamists see the weakness of the West and they're going to take advantage of it. So is there foreign influence in the United States? Absolutely. We have just ganged up on the wrong country.